The way you made it, that's the way it will be. Choices in our lives dictate the way our lives will be. Recently, a friend gifted us with some choose your own adventure books. Did anyone read these growing up or read them to your kids growing up? Choose your own adventure books. They were popular in the 80s and 90s, and they're written in the second person, so you are always the star of the story. And at the end of each page, you're forced to make a choice, a decision that determines what happens in the book. So say that you in the story are on a ship, and at the bottom of the page it says, if you decide to follow the captain's orders, turn to page 24, and that storyline unfolds. Or if you choose to challenge the captain, turn to page 48. And then the story unfolds in that way. The concept came from a man named Edward Packard, who allegedly came up with the idea when he was telling his daughter a bedtime story. He was a creative guy, and one evening he was just feeling kind of lazy, and he asked her what she thought would happen next. And boom, an interactive book was born. And so choose your own adventure books come in all kinds of genres, from science fiction to history to mysteries. And I loved them. I loved reading them because you never knew what was going to happen when you turned that page. Sometimes you'd die, and sometimes you'd be fabulously well off. But you never knew what you were going to get into when you chose the adventure. The act of choosing takes time and energy. And each of us are living out our own choose your own adventure book with our choices that we make each and every day. In the Harry Potter series, which our family is now finally going through, Dumbledore says to Harry, "It's our choices, Harry, that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities. It's our choices, Harry." And we make decisions all day long, every single day. We choose what we're going to have for breakfast. We choose the path that we're going to take to work. We choose whether we should get gas on the way to work. Each of these decisions placing us on a trajectory. Rebecca and I do this thing. We're both a little indecisive. Rebecca is my wife, and we will ask each other questions that are easy to decide, simply so that we don't have to make that decision. And so I'll ask Rebecca, where we plan to eat, or sometimes we'll drive around figuring out what to eat. Making choices can be, sometimes, I find it at least, oppressive and difficult to make choices. Sometimes it's fun and stimulating. Sometimes it's daunting and stressful. As humans, we have free will. We have the ability and the intelligence to make conscious choices. The ability to make choices allows us to claim, or at least believe, that we are somewhat in control. We convince ourselves that we are in charge of our destiny. But we know that that's not always how it unfolds. It's oftentimes like the Choose Your Own Adventure book, where you can make the choice, but you never know what's going to happen when you flip to that later page. We might mumble that it just wasn't meant to be, or maybe everything happens for a reason if you buy into that particular theology. It's frustrating. It can be, when choices vanish and our control is gone. And virtually all of the world religions would offer us some counsel in these moments. The guidance from the Hindu tradition, Kalidasa, would say, yesterday is but a dream, tomorrow is only a vision, but today well lived makes every yesterday a dream of happiness and every tomorrow a vision of hope. And the Buddhist practice of continually focusing on the present, on the now. Choices can be difficult, indeed. In The Art of Choosing, Sheena Iyengar writes, your choices of which clothes to wear, or which soda to drink, where you live, which school to attend, and what to study, and of course your profession, all say something about you. And it's your job to make sure that they are an accurate reflection of who you really are. But who are you really? The imperative, just be yourself, seems straightforward enough. What could be easier than being who you are already? Yet we often end up blinking in the headlights, perhaps frozen in place by the notion that we might, if we are not careful, turn into someone else. It's difficult to move forward when each step could move us further away from our authentic self. And so we dither. How do you make those choices that comprise the very person that you are? How do you make your choices every single day? Theodore Parker, an old Unitarian minister, tells this story that when he was 5 years old, he was out on a walk, swinging a stick around, and he saw a turtle. And he had seen other boys thwacking turtles with sticks. And so he reached back with his stick, about to strike down on the turtle. And then something happened that he had never experienced before. A voice in his head said, no, don't do that. And he was sharing this story with his mother. Conscience. He experienced conscience for the first time. How do we make our choices? Our conscience guides us. A higher call, our values that we profess, that we come here to profess and remind one another. Whatever your process, whether it's lists or pros and cons, or sleeping on it, or jumping forward with intuition and seeing what might feel right, our choices every single day make who we are. The truth is, there's no one right choice for anyone. I don't know for sure what choices I've made that will lead to an inevitable future. There's no perfect ending, perhaps. As Gilda Radner wrote, I wanted a perfect ending, but now I've learned the hard way that some poems don't rhyme, and some stories don't have a clear beginning, a middle, and an end. Life is about not knowing, having to change, taking the moment, and making the best of it without knowing what's going to happen next. And so we do find ourselves daily making choices, trying to do our best. We think about this at New Year's as we look back on our life and we consider the choices that we've made. But a new story of our lives is always forming. And there's power in being present to that story, to being aware and conscious of the choices that we are making every single day, lest we find ourselves drifting along. A Choose Your Own Adventure book. If nothing else, it encourages us to find different ways of an ending. I would always read every single ending by the time I got through with the book, to flip through, not just straightforward, but curious about what other paths I might have taken. We do this in our own lives as well, curious about what other paths we might take. What I want to say is, each of us, as we choose our own adventures, we're not stuck with these pre-written endings. You're not stuck following the actions of some unknown author. We each have the possibility to change, to choose, and to stop following the script if it's not working for us, to take control of our life and to make choices that fall in line with who we are, that authentic self, that one that answers the call of our conscience and our higher self, to be the kind of person that we want to be, and not always, for sure. We'll make wrong choices and we'll make poor choices, but we come to a place like this, a spiritual community, to remind ourselves of our highest values and the kind of people that we hope to be, the kind of community that we hope to be together. I know that I'm indebted to this Unitarian Universalist faith because it helps me make choices. It helps me make choices to become the kind of person that I want to be. You do that for me when we come here together and live out what we aspire to be together. May it be so, and may you choose your own adventure wisely, and may the story continue to unfold on that forming edge of life. Amen.